Hey folks, are you new to Lordrush and starting to feel overwhelmed by all of the pop-ups and indicators that are showing up on your screen? Or maybe you're a veteran Kingshot player who's now starting over in Lordrush and wants to accelerate through the early game as quickly as possible. Either way, this video is going to help you get the most out of the early game by breaking it down into a framework to help you think about accelerating your account and then giving you some practical tips on how to do so. But quickly, before I dive in, I want to let you know that my coverage of Lordrush will be website first, which means my YouTube channel will remain primarily focused on cutting-edge strategies for Kingshot, but given the similarities to Lordrush, we're localizing all of our great Kingshot optimizer work into a new website, lordrushhub.com, as the top destination for Lordrush guides, tips, hero reviews, tier lists, empire timelines, calculators, and optimizers. We've already built out a ton of it, so check out the link below in the description. The most important part is conceptualizing that Lordrush is made of 3 distinct game modes, and they mostly work in isolation of each other. There's Tower Defense mode, Conquest or Arena mode, and Expedition mode. So let me go through these with you one by one real quick, explain how they work and how they're different from each other. First is Tower Defense mode, and this is the version you likely saw in advertisements, and it's especially prominent in the early tutorial. Your town gets periodically invaded by enemies, and you need to repel them using your governor, townspeople, and heroes. There's no penalty if your governor falls in battle. He's simply down for a few moments and then comes right back up ready to fight again at full health. There's also no penalty to your town whatsoever if you have any of your buildings destroyed, or even if you lose the invasion altogether. See, this is an in-game mail where we've got rewards for winning, and this is one where we got rewards even though we lost. It's basically just the difference of 1 gold key, which is helpful early game, but not that big of a difference. Additionally, that countdown timer that you see on the left-hand side of the screen has no penalty for reaching 0. It'll actually wait for you to be ready to deal with it as long as you're in-game, and if you log out of the game when the timer's at 0, it'll just auto-simulate the battle and you'll receive the results and corresponding rewards via an in-game mail. There's also some buildings that are specific to this game mode, such as these defense towers or this barricade. These basically have no other use outside of tower defense mode, so given what I've said, they can be safely deprioritized versus more important buildings that help you, say, generate resources. Also, ignore the recommendation and just set all of your townfolk to archers. This way it'll keep them out of battle and it won't take time for them to regenerate after you win. And short of that, that's about it for tower defense. After a couple weeks of playing, tower defense mode doesn't really have much bearing on the overall Lordrush game. So now let's talk about conquest game mode. This is essentially a tactical level combat between heroes, but it doesn't have that real-time element like the tower defense mode. The only positional part of it is that you can just change the hero locations around at the start of the match. Now this actual conquest menu is all player versus environment or PvE battles, and these basically have you clearing predefined stages, which give you rewards for clearing them that can help accelerate other parts of your game, as well as build upon an increasing stream of passive income that can help you accelerate your account further. Now there's also an arena mode version of this, which is where the player versus player or PvP challenges come from, and these consume daily challenges that you have in order to attack. It's also worth noting that you get rewards for each arena attempt whether you win or lose. The difference is that winning gives you arena points which improve your ranking, so you get better daily and weekly rewards. Then after those weekly awards are sent out, arena points reset for everyone each week and the bracket starts over again. In Conquest and Arena mode, your team's strength is determined by hero star levels, the experience level, and hero gear. The bonuses from researching governor gear and charms and all of that sort of stuff do not count for Conquest or Arena. And even on the heroes, they use different stats, which you can see here. The Conquest and Arena ones are called Hero Attack, Hero Defense, and Hero Health. And also for the little escort troops that follow them around, they have Escort Attack, Escort Defense, and Escort Health. These are all pretty straightforward. It's basically how much damage you can deal and how much damage you receive before your heroes and escort troops are removed from the conquest battle. And one of the good things about conquest mode is that it allows you to retry over and over again without penalty. So you should feel really comfortable shifting around through formations and seeing if it allows you to clear a level you were stuck on. And even just randomness plays a little bit of a role in it, so it's helpful to retry a level a few times with the exact same formation and maybe you get a different result. And finally, then there's that expedition mode. And even though it has limited relevance in the onboarding tutorial, it becomes the most important game mode over the long term of Lordrush play. Not only does this use heroes, troops, and troop formations, but it also implements a variety of the stat bonuses that you have from hero gear, governor gear, charms, research academy, and all sorts of other sources. And all combat on the world map is based on expedition mode combat rules. There are 4 main stats you need to familiarize yourself with: attack, defense, lethality, and health. There's a bit of a complex formula behind all of these, and there are different values for each troop type, But the short version is that you want to raise all of them, but prioritize different abilities for different troops. So for infantry, for example, you're going to want to prioritize defense and health, while for things like lancers or archers, you'll want to prioritize attack and lethality. In the actual combat formula under the hood, defense and health are evenly weighted, and so are attack and lethality. So you want to have them as close to each other as possible because they also have a multiplicative relationship with each other. That's how you maximize the amount of damage you can take and receive in expedition combat. Now, expedition mode can either be solo combat with a single player's hero march, or rally combat, which allows other players to contribute heroes and troops to the battle. Alright, now that we get the fundamentals down, let's pull it all together with the top tips of how you should use these modes together to accelerate your growth as a new Lordrush player. In the earliest days of the game, you should fully engage with the tower defense and conquest and arena game modes because that's where you're going to get a ton of immediate resources. But the difference is that instead of just playing them for their own sake, you should always play them with the goal of accelerating your progress in expedition mode, because expedition mode is where you're going to get about 90% of the return on your account investment. So all of your strategic choices about whether to invest in these other game modes should be in service to advancing your capabilities in expedition mode. In the opening days, you always want to be thinking about how you can advance through town center levels and all of your key buildings as quickly as possible to increase your resource generation and accelerate the overall tempo of your account. And the rest of the tips that I'm about to share all follow this mindset. So the next tip is to really understand what's bottlenecking you from getting all these buildings up as quickly as you can and respond accordingly. So for instance, if you're low on resources, then it might be worth spending some stamina to get a quick injection of resources so you can start that next building construction that you need. Similarly, if you're waiting for construction to finish on a building that's bottlenecking other important buildings you need to get started, this is a great time to use all those speed ups that you get early game. At the end of the day, you want to be laser focused on hitting these requirements so you can advance your town center level the fastest, as well as max out your resource buildings to the extent that you're able to. Other non-critical buildings, such as some of the houses or the infirmary, possibly even the storehouse if you're not getting hit that often, these can all be deprioritized because they just don't have as significant of a benefit to the speed at which you can develop. You'll still want to come back and get them eventually because they're useful, but it's just not a priority. Players who prioritize correctly will advance quicker. So gold may likely be a bottleneck for you in the early game since you need it not only for the furniture upgrades in your buildings, but also for a bunch of early game research in your research academy that can further accelerate your account. So therefore, you should try to be discerning on where you're using the gold so that it gives you the most impact to accelerating the growth of your account. For example, these sorts of fireplace and rug items in the houses don't really do that much to improve the tempo of your account. Meanwhile, the additional furniture in your resource building actually does a lot to accelerate how many resources you get. And yes, there are some minor benefits to having happier citizens every day, which these furniture items do contribute to. But in the absolute worst case, if your town gets really unhappy and goes on strike, it only reduces your resource generation by 30% for a couple minutes in game, and then everything goes back to normal. So don't ignore it altogether. You can still go back later when you have an abundance of gold, but in the short term, it should definitely be deprioritized. And we can even take this use of spending gold one step further, because within those production buildings, there are opportunities for arbitrage when you're spending your gold. Sometimes new building levels will introduce new furniture and you can build and upgrade that furniture with gold to improve its performance. For instance, a level 9 iron mine introduces the cooling pool, which increases iron production by 0.42 iron per tick, and this is the same 0.42 rate you can get per level of foundry table. And by then, your foundry table will cost about 120 gold to upgrade from level 10 to 11, while your cooling pool only requires 9 gold to build the first level. This means that gold spent on the cooling pool has over 13 times the return on investment as the foundry table. So just spread out the investment across these different types of furniture to get the most immediate impact out of your gold. And this next tip goes back to that idea of the different game modes being in service of expedition mode. You can actually accelerate the rate at which you earn gold to help that expedition mode by advancing in conquest mode, and you can do this pretty easily. All it takes you is just a few blue and purple heroes randomly from levels 15 to 20 without any hero gear, and you can get 100 conquest levels no problem. And just doing that will get your gold income up to about 1800 an hour or so, and getting up to about 150, 160 and beyond, that'll get you up to 2400 gold. And again, these are all super feasible levels just from active playing the first couple days in your server. Now, once you get past level 200, you will start to hit a bit of a wall, and diminishing returns also start to set in for the increase in rewards. Then you can start to deprioritize grinding out conquests as the main priority. But before that, you should definitely be pushing it so you're not wasting out on a pile of gold that could give you a huge competitive advantage in the first few days of play. Our next tip is about alliances, and obviously you should join an alliance. It's not really feasible to play Lordrush without an alliance. But the tip here is to make sure you join the most active and powerful alliance you can possibly get into. And there's a few reasons why you might want to do that. First off, an active and powerful alliance is going to be throwing a ton of resources to blaze through the early game tech tree, which is going to feed back into the rate at which you can develop your town. In addition, the powerful alliances are going to attract a lot of spenders. This is going to translate into a bunch of free rewards as they buy packs. It's going to mean a bunch of free loot chests as they kill terrors. And in general, you'll just be getting a major stockpile of resources that you need to accelerate the building of your town. Powerful and active alliances will be able to build their pitfall sooner, which means a quicker bear hunt for you. And this is a huge deal because it means quicker access to a huge source of hero shards, hero gear, upgrade material, tons and tons of resources for building your city, and these alliance tokens, which, by the way, unlock increasingly more valuable items the more that your alliance levels up. So much like you're trying to increase the tempo of your individual city, an active and strong alliance that's increasing the tempo of all of its members is going to attract other strong members from other alliances and create a virtuous cycle. Being on the wrong side of this equation can completely derail your town's advancement. So stay sharp, follow the server dynamics, and make sure that your alliance is one that's attracting new players instead of having them go out the door. And this last tip is on pack purchasing. I know my channel usually leans more towards free-to-play advice, but one of the constant requests I get is about pack purchases on these games. And look, I know spending on these sorts of games is a deeply personal choice, and you shouldn't feel obligated to do so. However, if you do choose to spend, there are two packs which are relatively cheap and provide the best return on investment in the game due to their unique benefits. And these are the Construction Queue Pack and the March Queue Pack. In addition to the small amount of resources that they each provide, these massively improve the tempo of your game. The Construction Queue Pack gives you that extra slot to build buildings, so you can always be building 2 at once, which doubles your throughput. This means while you're waiting for the very long construction time of your embassy or town center upgrade, you can always have another important building going like your academy or your command center. But most importantly, it means you don't have to choose between not building anything while you upgrade your town center to unlock new buildings versus actually upgrading the buildings that you've unlocked. The March Queue Pack is also great because it gives you that extra March slot for your troops in expedition mode. It's slightly less important than the Construction Queue Pack in the early days of the game, since you can already pick up a couple March queues for free, but it still means you can spend stamina even quicker to gather more resources in time for your next upgrade, and you can have more troops gathering resources at the same time while still leaving some slots free to be able to actually go defeat beasts or join rallies and get additional rewards that way. And over the course of playing your game for the long term, those 2 packs for a combined $5 will have way more impact than even potentially a $100 pack would down the road. This is because they have massive compounding benefits to your account growth and change the way that you play the early game. So anyway, I'll pause here, and I hope you found all of these quick tips helpful to accelerate your first few days of playing Lordrush. And again, if you want way more detailed advice, be sure to check out lordrushhub.com, linked below in the description. That's the place where we'll be localizing all of my Kingshot content to make it the premier website for Lordrush coverage. And as always, a special thanks to my Sloth Squad channel members whose continued support helps make my channel possible. Don't worry guys, next video I'll be back to Kingshot. Thanks again for watching, and happy gaming out there.